Hey folks, this morning we're going to delve into a War Machine and Hordes. We're going to talk about slamming. Alright, slam is a power attack, which means that in the case of a warjack it has to be allocated focus at the beginning of the turn, and it costs one focus to perform the slam power attack, which is basically you run forward, you hit another model, and that other model is knocked back and possibly also knocked down as well. In the case of a war beast, you have to allocate focus in order to perform the power attack slam. Did I say focus? I mean fury, which is basically you give the war beast a fury, and the fury actually has negative consequences. Later on it can cause your war beast to go berserk, but if you allocate the fury to it, not allocate, if you give the fury to it, then the war beast can perform a slam attack, which I'll demonstrate in a moment.
Machamp, use slam attack!
To make a slam attack, you can't have any penalty to your speed like from a spell. However, it is okay to have a penalty to your speed for rough terrain. So, for example, if there were a little forest, let's just say, and your base had to cross over some rough terrain, that would slow you down, but it wouldn't prevent you from making the slam attack. A second condition of the slam is that you have to have your target in line of sight at the beginning of the turn. So, for example, if my Warp Wolf Stalker were turned to the side and couldn't see the Khador Heavy Jack there, he couldn't perform a slam attack. Now, this is important because if you can somehow prevent line of sight, you can prevent your models from being slammed. So, you declare the slam attempt. You say the Warp Wolf Stalker is attempting to slam this warjack, and then you turn the model so that it is directly facing the target. So if he was turned just a little to the side but could still see him, you'd have to turn him like that. Now what you do is you move speed plus 3 inches. So the Warp Wolf's speed is 6, plus 3 is 9 inches, and that's plenty to get into melee range. And you have to go directly, so it's not like a regular charge. A regular charge you can go like this and kind of be off to the side and then turn to face your opponent. But a slam is a little bit different. You have to turn to face your opponent first, and then you move directly towards him. Now, once you get into the 1/2 inch melee range, never mind that the Stalker has a 2-inch reach weapon, I don't think that applies here, then you can stop. So you can stop a 1/2 inch away, or you can stop at any point in time all the way up to and including contact. But that's optional. However, you can't stop like that. Now, you do have to stop in your slam movement if you come across a obstacle, a model obstacle, or an obstruction. So you may find out, let's say this guy's standing here, you may find out that in the course of the direct line of the slam, clunk, you hit this guy, he stops it. Same thing if it were an obstacle or an obstruction. Oh, and by the way, there is a difference between the two, but we won't go into that right now. So effectively, you have to have a clear path between you and your target. The other thing that'll prevent the slam from taking effect is if there's not at least 3 inches of run-up. So let's say we find out that I'm 2.5 inches away. That can't be a slam. That's not enough room to get momentum. It has to be at least a 3-inch movement. In this case, we had about an 8.5 inch movement, so that's plenty. Alright, now I make a melee attack roll at -2. My melee attack is 6. The Khador Jack's defense is 10, so normally I'd need a 4 or higher. 6 plus 4 equals 10. But since I'm at -2, I need a 6 or higher. So I roll a 9, and that means that is a successful slam.
Slam! Slam attack!
So to sum up, in order to make the slam, you need a clear path, line of sight from the beginning of the turn, and at least a 3-inch run-up. 3 requirements. Now, if you don't have the 3 inches run up, you still get to attack normally, or you get to make an attack at your strength. There's also a penalty if you didn't have enough reach to make it. If your speed didn't get within a half an inch of the target, then yes, your activation simply ends. Pathetic. Okay, now the target of the slam, now that I've hit, it's moved D6 inches directly away. 2 inches. Now there's 3 things that can stop a model from moving the full amount. Let's say this had been 6 inches, and let's say instead of this guy behind him, it had been this. He would simply move and then stop because there was an obstruction. Okay, so an obstacle is like a low wall or a barricade or whatever it is, usually 1 inch or less. So there's that. That would stop the slam. An obstruction, which is a piece of terrain, would stop it. Also, a model with equal to or larger sized base. So if there were another jack, even if it was off to the side, you would move this directly and clunk, it would hit that and stop. And now you.
Slam attack with stuff in my hands.
So 3 items stop the slam. Equal sized or larger base, a obstacle, or an obstruction. But as it so happens, I only rolled a 2, and that is enough to move this base. It clips this guy, and it lands on this guy, as you can see there. Okay, so here we go. This guy moves 2 inches. He ends up here. He actually overlaps 2 other bases. So this guy doesn't move. He ends up, no matter who's the person getting slammed, stays where they are, but the other models have to move the least total distance possible to get out of his way. All right, now comes the pain. We apply slam damage, which is equal to the strength, not the strength plus the weapon, just the strength of the model doing the slam. So the Warp Wolf is strength 10. So add 2 dice. His armor's 20 though, so basically I'm not going to do any damage here. I need an 11 or 12 just to do 1 or 2 points of damage. But if I want, I can boost the attack, which in the case of a War Beast in Hordes, I add Fury. So let's go ahead and try that. So the damage here would be 13 plus 10 is 23 minus 20 is 3 points of damage to the Warjack. Now, if the Warjack had encountered one of our 3 magic barriers here, an obstacle, an obstruction, or a model with equal or larger base, then we would have added 1 to the die roll, in which case I would have rolled 4 dice. I would have got a 4, a 5, 4, that was my roll, plus I would have added 6 to that. So that would have been quite a bit more damage if there had been, say, this guy standing behind him. Now there's one last part of a slam, and it's the best part. It's called collateral damage. And that is these 2 guys, they get damage from the slam equal to the strength plus 2d6. You can't boost this. So this guy would take 10 damage plus 12, 22, so he's killed hideously. And this guy back here, he is also killed hideously with 16 points of damage. So there's that. But who takes collateral damage? Equal or smaller sized base. So let's say this were a medium Warjack. Yes, I know it's not, but let's say it was. And this was slammed, and a heavy Warjack were standing behind him. Blam! He would actually stop, and this Warjack would take no damage. But as it is, I moved it back twice. It ran over 2 of his own guys, and this guy is also knocked down. This all takes place simultaneously. Also, as a minor rule effect, if these guys had a rule saying they got some bonus for being damaged by an enemy attack, that would not count here, since it was their own guy that touched them. A slam attack is not considered an enemy attack if it's collateral damage. Just reading it from the rules, boys, so we'd end up something like that. Now let's talk about when slam can be really bad. What if, for example, there had been more guys behind him? and I had rolled a 5 on my dice, just for example. Blam, like that. Yeah, so you can kill masses of troops by slamming guys through them. So that's one thing. The other thing is, what if, for example, this were an objective, and be within 5 inches of it, and so let's say I slammed this guy and moved him out of range of the objective.
Which Pokemon uses a slam attack?
So that was my best attempt at explaining the slam rules. Hope you're enlightened. Epic Kaya, in this case, her guys can perform... Hey, hold on a second. Her guys can perform slam attacks without being forced, so they can just run around slamming stuff, and I intend to try that a lot.